You found out your ex is already dating someone new. Maybe it's been 2 months, maybe it's been 6. Either way, you saw it and something inside you just cracked open. You're not sleeping right. You keep replaying every memory, every conversation, trying to figure out where it all went wrong. And the worst part, you keep asking yourself the same question over and over again. What does that person have that I don't? Why wasn't I enough? If that's where you are right now, stay with me, because this video is going to hit you hard in the best possible way. Let's start with the thing nobody wants to say out loud. When your ex moves on fast, it absolutely wrecks you. Not just because you're sad about losing them, it wrecks you because it triggers something much deeper. It makes you feel replaceable. It makes you feel like the relationship you poured yourself into meant absolutely nothing to them. And you start building this entire case in your head that there must be something fundamentally broken about you. That's where the real damage happens. Not in the breakup itself, but in the story you start telling yourself about what the breakup means. Here's the first thing I need you to understand, and I mean really hear this. Your ex moving on quickly says almost nothing meaningful about your worth. What it most likely reveals is something about their own emotional state. Think about it from a psychological standpoint. People who jump into new relationships almost immediately after a breakup are often not actually moving on at all. They're running away, running from grief, from loneliness, from having to sit in the uncomfortable silence of their own thoughts. That new relationship becomes a buffer, a distraction, a way of avoiding the very emotions they should be processing. So when you see them out there looking happy with someone new, what you might actually be witnessing is someone who is deeply uncomfortable with being alone, not someone who has magically healed and left you behind. There are a few different things that could be driving that behavior. Some people have anxious attachment styles. They cannot tolerate the emotional weight of being single, so they latch onto the next available person almost reflexively. Others have self-esteem that is genuinely fragile, and a new relationship gives them that hit of validation, that feeling of being wanted that makes the pain of a breakup temporarily tolerable. And in some cases, if they were the one who ended things, they may have spent months or even years emotionally checking out of your relationship long before it officially ended. They had a head start on the grieving process that you never even knew was happening. So the comparison you're making between their timeline and yours is not apples to apples. It never was. Now let's talk about the ego piece of this, because this is where things get really honest. A massive portion of the pain you're feeling right now is your ego hurting. And that's not an insult. That's just the truth. You're comparing yourself to this new person. You're wondering what they have that you don't. You're measuring your worth against some stranger because your ex chose them over you, or at least that's how it feels. But here's what that mindset is actually doing to you. It's outsourcing your entire sense of value to someone else's decisions. You're essentially handing someone else the remote control to your self worth and then being devastated when they change the channel. A relationship only qualifies as your dream relationship when both people are fully choosing each other. That's the non negotiable foundation of anything real. So if someone is not choosing you, if they're walking away, if they're already with someone else, they were never actually that person for you to begin with. The version of the relationship you were holding on to was always missing its most essential ingredient. You cannot grieve the loss of something that was already incomplete. What you can do is feel the disappointment, acknowledge that it hurts, give yourself permission to feel that fully, and then slowly start to let the story you've built around it go. And this is where the real transformation lives. The pain you are in right now, as brutal as it feels, is not punishment, it's an invitation. When everything external that you were using to feel good about yourself has been stripped away, when you can no longer look to that relationship to feel worthy or wanted, you are forced to find a different source of strength. And that source, when you actually discover it, is so much more powerful than any relationship could ever be. It comes from surviving something hard and still showing up. It comes from getting out of bed on the days you don't want to. It comes from choosing yourself over and over again in the smallest possible ways until that becomes who you are. The people who skip that process, who jump straight from one relationship into the next without doing any of that interior work, they carry all the same unresolved patterns right into something new. They might look fine on the outside. They might even convince themselves they're fine, but nothing has actually changed. And that cycle repeats until someone is brave enough to stop and actually do the hard thing. You stopping, you feeling this, you not immediately running to fill the void. That is not weakness. That is the bravest version of recovery there is. It takes time, and that's completely normal. There is no standard timeline for healing. But I promise you that on the other side of genuinely working through this, not suppressing it, not distracting yourself from it, but actually processing it, you will find a version of yourself that is stronger, more self aware, more compassionate, and honestly, more attractive than you have ever been. Your ex moving on quickly is not the final verdict on who you are. It is not evidence that you are unlovable or not enough. It is just one chapter in a much longer story that you are still writing. And the best parts of that story haven't been written yet. So give yourself the grace to heal properly. Be patient with your own process and trust that what is genuinely meant for you has not passed you by. It is still ahead. That is not empty comfort. That is just the truth. Now, go be good to yourself today. That's where it starts.